Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Joaquin Thompson with the Daily Bread Radio Show, coming to you live from the home studio. And want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We got a very exciting show planned for you. We're going to talk about some things that's on everybody's mind at this time of year, August going into September. And that's what I call the back to school season. So with the back to school season upon us, I felt like it would be more than appropriate to go ahead and talk about some things that are aligned to high school, that are aligned to college, and that are also aligned to savings. So a couple ground rules. If you definitely want to call in, the call-in number this evening is going to be 404-461-9368, 404-461-9368. So I really invite everyone to, give me a call. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me know if you have any questions, any concerns. Definitely want to talk about, some current events, things that are going on in the world and how they impact us. And just really ready for an exciting show. So I know we got a couple people that, are slated to call in. So I'll be, switching back and forth, making sure that we got all our technical stuff together. So I always like to start off with my intro music, get everything started. I love that. I love it. 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 Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I'll always have a positive word because I'm here to serve. I'll always have a positive word because I'm here to serve. Oh yeah, that's it. That intro music gets me hyped every week. So I'm going to go ahead and put the call-in number in the Facebook chat. So that way, if you want to call in, if you got any questions, any concerns about anything, want to give us some feedback, then by all means, make sure you give us a call at 404-461-9368. So we're going to put that number in there so that way we already got that in there. And we're going to go ahead and dive right into the show. I think I would be remiss if I started off the show and didn't mention or send out our condolences and sympathy for all of the victims of the all of the activity that's been going on in Charlottesville. Hold on one second, y'all. Daily Bread Radio Show.
What's up, man? You in?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, hold on. Give me the song queued up.
I already queued up the song, man. I'm live now.
Huh?
I said we live now.
Oh, okay, well, go ahead then. You good.
All right, I'm put you on mute. But so that's my producer. So we're working on some remote activity, and like I said, I think I would definitely be remiss if I didn't send out our deepest sympathies to the tragedies that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia last weekend. I think it's what some people call a sign of the times. It's something that has been brewing. We've had an undertone. It's never went away. Some people felt like it got a little better. Not sure if it got better or if it just got a little masked. I mean, that's really kind of been that's always been my spin on it. I was raised in the South, originally from, Duval County, which is Jacksonville, Florida. And, being raised in the South, you come firsthand with all of the stuff that's related to, rebel flags and just white supremacy stuff and things of that nature. So, that really just struck a chord with me because, anything in, south of the Mason-Dixon line, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, even though we got beaches and you got the Miamis in there as well, but, it's a long history of racism, in that state. And even when I started to do a little bit more research, it's amazing how when we don't know certain things, how things, you could be a part of something and don't even realize that you're a part of it. And what I mean by that is, was looking at CNN as all of these different things were unfolding over the weekend. And one of the things that kind of struck me was that in Jacksonville, there's a number of schools that are named after people that were part of the Confederate, I would just say the Confederate legacy, the legacy of the Confederacy. And I had no idea about it. That's just me, quote unquote, being ignorant. Didn't know who Kirby Smith was. Knew of Kirby Smith's school in Jacksonville because I knew people who went to Kirby Smith, but didn't realize the role that he played in the Confederate legacy again. Knew about General Lee. And the thing about General Lee, Robert E. Lee is a very popular high school in Jacksonville, Florida. So out on the west side. And but I think, again, being in that environment, we really were never exposed to who Robert E. Lee really was. So just took some time out this weekend to really, think through that, see how things were going, and really was, just kind of taken aback because I'm 50 years old. So I mean, I grew up in Jacksonville, every bit of 18 years old, going over to Lee, playing football against Lee. And here's another one for you all, for the people that's in Duval. Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis was also part of that Confederate legacy. So of course I feel some type of way now. It's like we need to write some letters or get a campaign going to say, hey, we need to look at maybe looking at some different names, because one of the things that history teaches us is this: if we don't know our history, then we really don't have an appreciation for it. So those are just three of the schools that I know in Jacksonville. I'm sure some in other parts of the country, because we have people that are, tuning into my show all over the country, pretty much all over the hemisphere, because I've had people call in even out of the country or log into Facebook Live this out of the country. So, excuse me, I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that we have to stay vigilant and make sure that the people are being held accountable, because the president, I've listened to Michael Eric Dyson and Brother Cornel West, and these brothers are on an intellect level, on a whole nother level than I would say I would consider myself. But the words and the way that they describe this president is spot on, but at the same time, it just makes you wonder, like, he's definitely not the right person for the role, because it's kind of unheard of to see. I mean, for you to have anybody that's the leader of a country, and we're talking about the United States, let alone a CEO. So, the way that he responded to Ken Frazier, and for those of you all, I'm sure people have been following, Ken Frazier is the CEO of Merck Pharmaceuticals, and Merck Pharmaceuticals is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And, Ken Frazier, when all of this, based on Donald Trump's response, he made a conscious decision, and not only a conscious decision for his company, but also as an African-American, he made a decision that he wasn't going to be a part of the manufacturing council at the White House. So that was he had the right to make that decision. So following, Ken Frazier, then you had, Kevin Plank from Under Armour, and then you had the CEO from Intel, all of them started to pull out. And Donald Trump's response to Kevin Frazier was, it was definitely inappropriate, because he started to tweet out that, he really needed to make sure, well, he tweeted out to Ken Frazier, like, okay, now you have more time to, spend time with, bringing down the prices of all those rip-off drug prices or something to that effect. Something that was like super negative, wasn't appropriate, and especially no decorum from the president of the United States, let alone, I wouldn't even expect that from the CEO of a company, let alone the president of the United States. So I think we're in we're in a delicate situation right now in this country. And I think that for us, all of us, we have to remain, what I call, you got to keep your eyes open now, and we got to be thinking. because it's a lot of stuff that's brewing, a lot of stuff that's being done, and people are calling it domestic violence. And that's exactly what it is, because if you think about, for those of us that have come face to face with our history, it wasn't too long ago that, people were being lynched, people were being, maimed, people were being bombed, kidnapped, all these, that's domestic violence. I mean, it don't have to be an act of terrorism from, Syria, Iran, Iraq, places in the Middle East. We got people that are terrorists right here in this country. So again, I couldn't start off talking about personal finance and the things I want to talk about on the show without making mention of that, because I definitely want the listening audience to stay informed. I want you all to be aware. I want you to stay on top of things. And if need be, we need to start doing some, writing some letters, because one thing about letters, people respond to letters. I mean, many times, you might protest, you might march, something happens in the, I guess you would say in the short term, you get vision, but in the long term, nothing happens. But it's something about writing a letter, or something about getting a group of people to write a letter to, verbalize their displeasure about something that really gets people's attention. So I wanted to start off with that. And like I said, we're going to pray for those families that were affected. We're going to pray for peace. We're going to pray that God will continue to be sovereign over everything. And we're not going to be, worried, because we got faith and we're faithful people. And there's no need to worry when, God ultimately is in control. But we're going to be smart and we're going to be vigilant about our well-being and our safety as well. So you want to make sure that, you stay on top of that. So today's topic, what we're going to talk about today is really about getting back to school. I want to call this the Back to School series, because recently I've been seeing a lot of things in print media, a lot of things on TV where everybody's kind of back in that season. All of the high schools, the middle schools, elementaries, kindergartens, and now the colleges are starting to get back in school. So I'm seeing a lot of things on Facebook where students are, starting up that freshman year, starting off at different schools. Everybody's very excited. But one of the things that comes with, starting off that freshman year is there's a certain amount of accountability that comes after what I call the honeymoon phase, because I know how it is. I've experienced that, and it's nothing like the joy of seeing your child being able to put themselves in a position to continue their education. So you really feel, it's a joyous occasion, and it's something that it should be celebrated. And I applaud all of the families that are able to get their children to college, get them into college, get them enrolled and into their dorms and things of that nature. So we definitely want to keep that, keep that at a very high level, because it's not something that we should take lightly, because many students, unfortunately, don't have the opportunity to experience that. So we want to make sure that you stay, that's something that you really celebrate. Like, you don't take it lightly. You don't just say, oh, you're in the dorm and hey, so, but we really are blessed if you can get a child into college these days. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's like college costs and planning for college, and this serial cycle effect that it has on individuals, and the impact that it's having on our economy, both at the state level and the federal level. So I'm going to share some information with you. And like I always talk about on my show, don't believe anything that you hear me say. I challenge you to go out and do your own research. Go out on the internet. I mean, right now with Google and all these other mediums, you can go out and research anything that you want to research. So anything that you hear from me, my challenge to you and the listening audience is, you go out and you take the time to research it. So that way, if you hear something on the Daily Bread and you don't agree with it, or you say, well, hey, you want to always do your fact finding. So do your fact finding. I'm doing mine. I'm definitely doing mine. So if somebody want to call into the show, you got a comment about something, or I say something and I misstate it, I'm fine with that too, because I'm going to do the best that I can and have the most up-to-date data. So that way you won't go away thinking like, oh, he just pulling stuff out of the air, like, oh, willy-nilly. But you have something that you can go and reference, because I'll give you the source and I'll give you what it says. So that way, when you go back to do your research, I want to make it easy for you. So again, the call-in number this evening is going to be 404-461-9797. 9368-404-461-9368. You can call in with a question about personal finance. You can call in with a comment. You can call in and say, hey, whatever you want to say, we appreciate you, calling in, because that just lets us know, me, my producer, everybody who's, putting in all of the blood, sweat, and tears to bring this show to you. It just kind of lets us know, like, hey, it is people out there, and you're listening, and you're not doing what we call, you're not multitasking, you're not on Facebook, and then you're over there cooking at the same time. So, but I get it. I appreciate everybody that joins us. But so let's talk about college costs. Let's talk about this dynamic that's going on in our country, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's a serious issue that is facing, parents and students alike all across America. So you figure on average, annually, we send about 16 million students, undergraduate students, to college. Back in the fall of every year's annual tradition. So we send about 16, somewhere around like 16 million students in school enrolled at any given time. And, the last statistic that I saw was something around like 79%, 80% of all students that attend undergraduate colleges will be in a position where they will need to have some type of loan put in place. It might be a small loan, it might be a larger loan. And most times now when you go to colleges, the colleges are going to offer you a package, a financial aid package. And in that financial aid package, you're going to have a variety of different financial aid resources. So you may have some scholarships in your financial aid package. That's very, it's common, depending on what the students, GPA and ACT and SAT, you may qualify for different scholarships, and, the timing of your application, and, ethnicity, and what school, and their budget and their endowments. So it's a lot of different variables that go into that. But one of the things that comes out of that is, in that packet, there is more than likely 80% of the students are going to receive some type of loan. So here's the issue that's at hand. Many students are entering into college as freshmen. And this is a very common statement for those of you that have been to college, for those of you that old school, what I call old school grad, like me. I graduated, early 90s, late 80s, and then I went back to school. So even back in the late 90s, it was very common doing your freshman orientation for some administrator to come up before your freshman class and say, hey, look to the person to your left and look at the person on your right, because next year, or sometimes next semester, they won't be here. So we kind of took that as like, oh, okay, I get it. A lot of people may not come back for various reasons. Could be academic, could be financial, what have you. But every school that I've attended post high school, so undergraduate, not grad, but undergraduate, when I got two degrees undergrad, and both times that I got those degrees, that was a common theme that someone said, look to your left and your right, and the person is next to you more than likely won't be here next year or next semester. So we kind of took it tongue in cheek, like, oh, okay, well, they ain't talking to me. I knew I couldn't go back. I was like, what? I don't know. Solomon Northup. Well, I knew I couldn't go back without them papers. So I had a different type of mom. And so I was like, they ain't talking to me, because come hell or high water, I'm getting mine. But, on a serious note, what happens is, what we're seeing is happening is, when you do the numbers, what we're finding is that 80% of the students have some type of loans entering into their freshman year. When you look at all of the students overall, that's 16 million, about 80% of them have some type of loan in their financial aid packet, year over year on an annual basis. The problem lies when the student gets to a point where the financial aid that's being offered by the school is not enough, or they have some type of personal crisis, or it's just a matter of economics and finance that comes to light. And what I always tell students is this: I do a lot of work with high school students, and I try to talk to parents and say, many times I don't think parents take into consideration how much it's going to cost to send their kids to college. So you get your kids in college and you're thinking like, okay, the tuition, right now they're saying that the average in-state tuition for a student in public universities, you're probably looking at about, roughly about $20,000 a year. And then when you add in room and board, you probably right around somewhere like 30,000, 35,000. That's in-state public. So that's about as cheap as it get, right? In-state public, tuition, room and board, you're looking at right about 30, 35. When you start talking about, and I want you all to, take note of these numbers because I'm gonna make some notes for myself. So we said, let's just say 35 is in-state tuition. When you start talking about private colleges, you're talking about 45,000. So let's say that. Let's say 45,000 for private. 45 for private and about 35. Let's use a nice round number, 35, so that way it'll cover you. Just say for in-state public, right? Room and board, that's everything. That's what I call out the door price. Room and board, books, tuition, everything. But here's something else that you have to take into consideration. Even that number doesn't include everything. Because if your child goes, even if they go to UGA, one of the first things one of the first calls you're going to get, male or female, after you done paid all that money to the bursar, after you done got them enrolled and they done got registered and you done brought all them books probably about 1,500. After you done did all of that and you on your way back home, you're going to get a text from your son or daughter and say, hey, I need some money. I don't have money. You done paid for the meal plan and all that. So that don't even get factored into that. So let's just think through these numbers. So at 35,000, and these are today's dollars. So say you got a son or daughter that's going to college right now, 2017, 2018 class, well, not class, but academic year. You looking at 35,000, if they in-state, 35,000 4 times, that's $140,000 over the next 4 years. That's $140,000 in cash, or in some cases, cash and loans, because they do have the parent loan or the plus loan that you can take out to help your students. But either way, it's $140,000. And if you start talking about private, that's about $180,000, somewhere around $180,000, $190,000 over the next 4 years. Now, heaven forbid, your son or daughter have a little misstep and have to go another semester or another year. So now you can add on another $35,000 to $45,000 to that tab. So it gets that's a pretty daunting task, because when you think about it, that's like paying off a house in 4 years. That's like making 8 payments on your house, 2 payments a year over 4 years, and then your house is paid for. If you're in somewhere in that $200,000 range, or even if you're more than that, just say $200,000 towards your house being paid off. So to pay that type of money and maintain what I call maintain home, because even when you spend that money for your kids to go to school, you still got to maintain home. Got to pay the mortgage, pay the auto insurance, pay all the stuff, pay the lights, pay the water. You got to maintain home still. So that's why that budget that we've been talking about on the show becomes very, very, very important, because you're going to need it. Now, what happens, the thing that I'm concerned about is this. Most colleges, the average college graduation rate over a 6-year period is right around about 57%. And like I said, you can do your research. Some places got it earmarked at 59, some 60, but somewhere around, let's say 57, 58%. So what does that mean? That means that we got about 42, 41, 42, 43% of the freshmen. Look to your left, look at the person on your right, and they're not going to be here next semester or next year. That's that 40%, 40, 41%. Now, the problem with that is this. If it happens in their sophomore year, they've already incurred loans their freshman year, and they've incurred loans their sophomore year, and something comes up and they can't continue their junior year and they have to stop going to college. what happens to the student loans? So that becomes a big problem. Now check this out. Last week, Thursday, AJC, this is the AJC, and for those of you all that are not in Atlanta, this is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, this is our main, newspaper in Atlanta. And I saw this article, it was a front page article last week, Thursday, and the title or the headline read, without a degree, loans weigh heavy. Without a degree, loans weigh heavy. And it's an article about a young man that was going to Georgia State, enrolled at Georgia State, had dreams of being a history teacher. Like he wanted to, really wanted to give back, had some crisis in his family. Stepfather got ill, ended up eventually passing away. He was the breadwinner. His mom and his siblings were evicted from their home, and they eventually found another home and got settled in. But the problem is this: he has federal student loans that he has to repay, but he doesn't have a degree. So now he's kind of stuck in the middle. He's stuck, like literally just like stuck, because he can't command the type of salary that he really needs in order to repay the loans. He can't command the type of salary he needs because he needs to have a degree, because the jobs that pay the higher money, you need a degree for. I mean, and that's just the way of the world right now. You need a degree. So he doesn't have that. But at the same time, the federal student loans have to be repaid. Federal student loans are some of the only debts that you can have. Even if you file bankruptcy, you cannot discharge a student loan. You can discharge your house, you can discharge your cars, you can discharge retail debt, credit card debt. You can put all that on that. When you file bankruptcy, you can put all of it on there. Like, man, take it all, just get it off of me, whatever. Student loan debt is going to still be with you. So you can't get away with it. You can't get away from it. So it's estimated just in the state of Georgia. Now let's think about this for a minute. So this is a young brother. So now he's caught. He's in a catch-22. And once you default on the student loan and you try to reapply to a college, most colleges won't allow you to be admitted if you have a default on a student loan. So check that out. So now you're really locked out. So now you either got to deal with it, or you just kind of stuck out there, and you really went into this thing saying, hey, it's going to be great. I'm gonna get my degree. But for 40% of the students that are entering as freshmen, 40% every year, 40% over a 6-year period, they're not going to graduate, and they're going to have these student loans. And for this young man, he was going in-state public. But this is happening to students that are going to private schools. So private school, what would be a private school? Most of your HBCUs, other private schools would be like Agnes Scott, Howard, Hampton, Morehouse, Spelman, all those are private colleges. So now you're talking about it could be $30,000 that you owe, $20,000 that you owe, and you don't have your degree. So in Georgia, they say it's about 108,000 students right now in the state of Georgia that are in this position. Dropped out of college for a variety of reasons, but the primary reason is financial. So the reason I'm bringing this up and I want to talk about it on my show is because this is something that I want parents to be thinking about, and for you to, the X factor, this is just my opinion. The X factor is always the student, right? The parent is going to do what he or she can do to make sure that they're in position. But sometimes, depending on the financial situation and the cash reserves, because if you think about it, if you having some challenges with your personal finance already, right? Like your car note just a little higher than it should be. Your mortgage might be a little higher than it should be. Somebody might have, lost some income or what have you. So if you already are having some challenges, when you send your kids off to college, it could compound it, because And the thing with the college system, the way that it's set up is it's not even year to year. It's really like month to month. And what I mean by that is they put you into this cycle where even if you're not paying if you don't pay your installments on time, or if your student has an outstanding balance at a certain period of time, they won't even allow them to register for classes for the next semester. So what does that do? That could potentially put your students at risk for either having to take longer to graduate or take summer school classes or something else, but it can be very impactful. It's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect. When it typically happens between the spring and the fall, then what they'll do is they just won't let them register for the next year. And if you haven't registered for classes and you return, I mean, those classes fill up so fast. It just really throws a monkey wrench in everything. So I wanted to put that out there. And when you start thinking about the numbers, like I said, that was an article. Check out last week's AJC, front page of the AJC. That was the August 10th edition. And then when you start thinking about college costs, they had a nice article. It's in Kiplinger magazine. So you can pick up this month's Kiplinger magazine. And they talk about how much to save for a 4-year degree. Now listen to these numbers. So for a newborn, so that's for anybody who's, young couple, just had a baby, congratulations. Your son or daughter ready to go to college in a few years. A newborn, listen to these numbers. For in-state public college, the total cost is about $140,000. 4 years. This is a 4-year degree. Total cost about $140,000. Out of state public college, you're looking at about $220,000. And for a private college, you're looking at about $282,000. That's for a newborn. That's for anybody that has a newborn at this point in time. They said for a 6-year-old, anyone that has a 6-year-old, and we have a 6-year-old in our family because I have my little grandson, Kobe. Little Kobe is 6 years old. So for Kobe, if Kobe decides to go in-state public, or we decide to send Kobe, or his parents decide to send Kobe in-state public, you're looking at about $120,000 for his tuition. Out of state public college, you're looking at $192,000. You might as well say $200,000. And for a private college, if it is decided he's going to go to a private college, he's looking at about $250,000, $246 to be exact. So might as well round up 250 because he's going to be calling about he needs some money, he needs some this or that or what have you. So about $250,000. That's not, and this is not a long time away. A 6-year-old, they only have about a good 10, say 12 years before you're looking at, coming up with close to, $250,000 for college if he goes private. A 12-year-old today, it would cost them about $90,000. When they're ready to go to college, it costs them about $100,000 to go in-state public. Out-of-state public is going to be about $170,000. And for private, you're looking at about $215,000. So even that $215,000 is pretty pricey. Looking at 6 years from now, if you got a 12-year-old today and you're looking at sending them to college in 6 years, that's still a nice little price tag there. If you have a 17-year-old, so now we're getting into the ones that are getting ready to go to college, or for some students, they're going into college at 17. Very articulate and smart, and maybe they graduated at 17. So for in-state public, you're looking at about $90,000. Out-of-state public, you're looking at about $150,000. And for private, you're looking at $190,000. Might as well say $200,000, about $190,000. So those are just some things that keep in mind. And as all of you all know, I'm a huge advocate about education, because the catch-22 in this whole scenario is this: in order for you to get the better job, you need more paper, right? So the way it goes is more paper gets more paper. I know that's not grammatically correct, but that's how it works. More paper gets more paper. So you get your bachelor's, you get more paper than you do if you didn't get your bachelor's. You go on and get your master's degree, you're going to get more paper with your master's degree than you would with your bachelor's. And you go ahead and get your, PhD, get your advanced degree, Juris Doctorate, medical doctor, then you're looking at more paper. So you just have to decide what you want to do, how you want to do it. But we got to be sensitive to these issues because they can be life altering. And we want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for our children. And we want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for our children's children. And I agree. One of my listeners is saying that today's salaries don't reflect the loan repayment plans. No, they don't. Man, okay. Man, let me tell you something about Mr. Charlie. Mr. Charlie don't care about no loan repayment plan. Mr. Charlie is trying to keep everything for himself. So you gotta be smart. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. He has a different position than me. I mean, we always have a healthy conversation because he doesn't believe in any loans. Like his position is students going to college shouldn't have any loans. It's ridiculous that they would have to, have loans. And I was like, I used to feel the same way. I'm gonna just be totally honest, totally transparent because, we always have good dialogue on the Daily Bread. And you can call in with a comment as well, 404-461-9368, 404-461-9368. So you can call in with a comment. The phone lines are open. You can definitely, hit me up and let me know. But one of the things that we always look at is, let me open this up, is Mr. Charlie don't care. I mean, that's the bottom line. Mr. Charlie ain't thinking about no loan repayment. He ain't thinking about no forbearance. Mr. Charlie ain't thinking about none of that. So as you trying to, navigate this, but my position with my friend was this: you just have to be smart. You have to make a smart money move when you start thinking about college, because the way I always looked at it is it's an investment, right? It's one of the largest investments that you're going to make other than a house, because those are some big numbers. You talk about $100,000, $200,000. That's a lot of money with interest. Because I didn't bring that into you, so now you got, people saying, well, you can get low interest, but interest is interest. Even low interest is interest. It's more than principal. So, my theory is if you're going to take on, getting a college education, the number one rule that I had and I discussed with my kids when they were going through that process was, let me pray that you would be blessed to complete your education. That's number one. That was always my prayer. I didn't get too deep into what's your grades and what you do this semester, and because I looked at it like it's an investment for everybody. So one of the things I ain't want to do, I ain't want to put no undue pressure on a kid that's already away from school, away from home, in a foreign land, trying to find themselves. This is, all this is new to me, and they going through all this different stuff in their head. The last thing that they need is, me, badgering them about, did you get an A or a B or a C or D? Because they grown at that point, really. I mean, 20, 21, 22. My question to my kids has always been like, just let me know if you're good enough to go to the next semester. Because hey, that's what I need to know. If you good, I'm good. All right, let's roll. Let's roll. Because my theory behind it was, if I can get them to the graduation, then at least at that point, they would have obtained a degree and not, made a decision for whatever reason to say, I didn't finish or what have you. So finishing was number one, but then number two, it's just an investment. It's like any other investment. You're gonna buy a BMW, or you're gonna buy a Lexus, or you're gonna buy a house. It's an investment. You're gonna buy a business. You're gonna start your business, because we talk about that on here. You want to start a business, open up a consulting agency. It's gonna take seed capital. It might cost you 30, 40, 50. It might cost you $100,000, depending on what type of business you're looking to open. So I just looked at it from that standpoint. It's an investment. It's a lifelong investment that if you do it the right way, it can pay you over your lifespan. So, I figure, $100,000, and you come out, even if you come out making 40, say you come out making 40, in 10 years, if you don't have no salary increase, no nothing, you make 40 in 10 years, you didn't make $400,000 gross. You probably netted out, what, 325, depending on how much tax you're paying. But either way, you didn't gross 400,000 on 100. That's a good return on investment all day. Because I know if I put $100,000 on somebody's stock in 10 years from now, it's 400,000. I'll be all right. I'll be good with that. I would like that. So that's always been my position. And the thing that you have to keep in mind while we're dealing with this whole crisis with the students, the amount of debt. Here's the other part to the equation. The amount of debt that people are taking on is also increasing. It's at an all-time high. And here's another resource, USA Today. Maybe y'all can't see. Oh yeah, there we go. USA Today. I got to get in front of the camera. This is the USA Today, and this is Thursday, May 18th, 2017. And the headline is, "We owe more than we did in 2008. That's pretty big. This 2017. It says household debt tops milestone, but it's a good thing, experts say. Now, the experts are saying it's a good thing because why? Because they want people to be borrowing and spending because that helps to spur the economy, right? That sounds like a good deal, right? It does sound like a good deal unless you accumulating a lot of debt. Then it's not good for you. It's good for somebody else that you're the liability and they have the asset. So yeah, banks, mortgage companies, other places, they like that when you take on these additional liabilities and stretch yourself out with some additional debt. And in the first paragraph of the column, with the second paragraph of the column, it states that, it said, but while the debt doesn't pose the risk that toppled the financial system 9 years ago, there are still some signs of potential trouble. Notably, listen to this, high student loan debt and delinquencies. That's in the USA Today. That was May. That was May of this year. That was like 3 months ago. So everything that we're talking about tonight is all relative. It's cyclical. It's all tied together. And then when you think about savings, the other thing that I was looking at some research on savings, like how many people have savings. They said over 40% of the people in this country, 21% have no savings account. So let's think through this. 21% have no savings account. Another like 24% have less than $1,000 in savings. So that's 46. If I do my math right, 46. So that's almost half of the people in this country. It's roughly 300 million men, women, and children in this country. So roughly half of our country have less than $1,000 in savings, and we're going to send some kids to college. So that's why we have these type of conversations on this show, is because I want you to look at the total landscape. Don't look at it from a myopic standpoint, like you just looking at sending somebody to college. You got to look at your budget. You got to look at your debt to income ratios. You got to look at your reserves. You got to look at how much extra cash flow do you have, in order for you to service this amount of debt. Because we're talking anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 worth of debt in 4 years. So you want to make sure that you can service that debt, and then you can, be in a position where you can enjoy it the whole time. So you want to make sure that, and when you get it, make the most of it. Whatever you do, I'm a big proponent. Whatever degree you get, I don't care if you got an advanced degree in popcorn popping, whatever it is, you got to have the type of mindset that I'm going hard. It don't matter what my degree is. It's all up to me, because the other thing that all of this stuff that's going on in Charlottesville and going on in all these other parts of the country, that's the overt. That's the overt that you're seeing there. That's somebody with a tiki torch and a swastika walking around. But in corporate, if you in corporate America, or if you in a job market, it's covert. Because some of them same cats, when they came back from Charlottesville and they went back to work, they went back to working with people like you and me. So if you don't have that degree, if you don't have that work ethic, then they looking for ways to keep us. It ain't no glass ceiling for us. It's a goddamn weight vest with an anchor on it. So you got to take whatever you got, because that degree is just your ticket to get in the game. So that's always been my philosophy. It don't matter what your degree is. You can outwork a joker every day of the week. I don't care what they do. Get up earlier, stay later, do some research, read more books than they read, do more, just learn what you do, learn your craft, spend some time with it. Because that's what you're going to take, because that's when you're dealing with covert racism, where you think they cool and we all on the same, team and we're working on a strategic project. Nah, it ain't. Let's just be real. Because them people who came out of Charlottesville, they got jobs and they work places. They don't do that full time because they need to make income too. So what we have to do is equip ourselves with education, work ethic, and that drive and perseverance to say, hey, you're not going to take nothing from me and mine, because I got to have it. I got to feed my family, just like you got to feed yours. So, great show. Again, still got some time for you all to call in 404-461-9368. 404-461-9368. You can give us a call. Let us know if you got any comments, any questions about anything, anything that you want to know that I haven't gone over that we need to talk about. We could talk about it if you want to put something in the chat. But, like I said, definitely call and make sure the phone line is working. Because we got the phone lines open, and you just want to make sure it's ringing. We like WKRP in Cincinnati, so we try to make the phone lines light up. But I always have to give you all a book. So I got a book for you all this week, and I'm in the home studio. So this book is called, I'm trying to fool with this. I guess it goes this way. Yeah. Financial Self-Defense. I'm not going to mess with y'all like that. It's called Financial Self-Defense by Charles J. Givens. And what this book talks about is, it's a book about personal finance. And what Charles Givens back in the 70s and the 80s was a big proponent of personal finance. And his thought process was like, you should take over and take ownership for everything that you do from a personal finance standpoint. So this book, the thing I like about this book is, he talks about everything from budgets to how to buy insurance, to the correct way to buy a car, how to save money on groceries, how to, not buy those warranties when you buy a new product, anything that's going to help save you money. Charles Givens talks about it in this book. And again, like I always like to show you all, I always read them. So I'm not going to bring nothing to you that I haven't read. And the number one thing that he talks about, and we just talked about that, was the fact that your income doesn't dictate what you can and can't do, right? So what you want to do is make sure that you keep that in mind. It says your income does not determine your outcome. The amount of money that will pass through your hands over a working lifetime is incredible. For example, if you work 40 years and earn, okay, we got a caller. Thank you for calling the Daily Bread Radio Show. You're on with Joaquin. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Kevin Goodwin, Joaquin, calling from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing?
What's up, team? You can say it. Rudy Roo. What's going on, baby?
You're doing a great job, man. And,
hey, man, I appreciate it.
Some real stuff when it comes to not only finance, but also I have a senior going into college next year.
Right.
And it's a great topic. It's right on time to talk about how to get this scholarship money and how to apply to school. So thank you, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate the feedback, Kevin, and it's really important. And me and you've been having this conversation for about 6 years, because you helped me out with my daughter, and I always tell people about that, because that was one of the last conversations that you and I had about her. And it is timely, because I know you got the boys coming up, and that's something that's real. Sometimes we talk about things, but when you start thinking about, especially as a parent, the worst thing that you want your child to do is to have the drive and the desire to do it, and for whatever reason, I can't do it. That's like the Grim Reaper standing behind you. So, when you got two close together like your sons, and they both gonna be in college at the same time, and one at this school and one at that school, them scholarships gonna definitely help, but being strategic, you and Sheila sitting down, mapping out a plan, that's what's gonna make it happen. And, if there's anything that I could do, I'm willing to come out to the school, talk to the class of 2018, or talk to some parents, whatever we need to do, because, what I'm trying to do is get the word out so that way we don't lose more students into that 40% that's not graduating, and they end up with a student loan and they can't get the job they want. And it just starts this vicious cycle. And on top of that, you got to deal with, these cats that don't want to give you what you're worth because the way you look and you don't look like them. So, anything I can do, team, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to do whatever I can. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm only on 18 of 1,000. So I'll be doing the next 3 weeks. I'm going to be talking about some of these same type of topics from a back to school standpoint. So that way it can be relevant. If you all have questions, you can definitely bring in some stuff. Or if you want me to do some research or point you in a certain direction, then, you can definitely reach out to me here, or you can reach me via email at dailybreadradioshow@yahoo.com.
Great show. Thank you for the tips, White Team.
Hey,
I'll be in
man.
touch.
Hey, I appreciate it, team. Rue. And the thing about it is this topic affects all of us, because in the article in the AJC, what they were saying is because there's so many people not getting their degrees, it's going to have a negative effect on the economy, because as you're trying to grow jobs in the state of Georgia and these big companies want to bring more jobs here, they're going to be looking for people with a certain level of education in order to fill those jobs. And if, big companies don't feel like you have the resources within your state to support them bringing big industry into your state, then that's going to impact the economy if they decide not to go to Georgia, but they decide to go to North Carolina instead, or they decide to go out west, or worst case scenario, they decide to go overseas. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other show, but that's real as well, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're not able to do it. So my whole thing is with the show is like, let's work together. Let's, get from behind the shadows. Let's get from behind like, hey, I need to know everything. Hey, because I don't know everything. I'm working with some real good experts that I'm going to be bringing on. Just kind of lock down a tax attorney. Now check this out. I got an expert that's going to be coming onto the show real soon. He's a tax attorney. So he has a CPA and he's an attorney. So you're talking about a very, 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 good asset to have in your arsenal is a tax attorney. So that way, when you coming up with these, I know my wife, when you come up with these different schemes, you know what I'm saying? You always want to have somebody you can run it by to make sure that you don't end up in no, Sopranos type of situation, or just, get caught out there. But real talk, it's good to have somebody that's an expert, because I'm definitely not an expert. And my kids, I know my kids on here, my wife, but they know I'll come up with some stuff now. When it comes to like grinding or trying to make something happen, I just, I'll come up with some stuff. So I always like to bounce things off of people who are the expert, and they can tell me, yeah, you're doing this right, or no, you can't do it like that. Because the worst thing you want to do is put yourself in, double jeopardy, just by trying to do something. So we definitely have them coming on. But just to continue with this little excerpt from this book called Financial Self-Defense, Charles Gibbons says, for example, if you work 40 years and earn only an average of $25,000 per year, you will have made $1 million even without salary increases due to inflation. If you get an annual raise of only 5%, that $1 million explodes to $3 million. There's no question whether or not you can make $1 million. The real question is, how quickly can you make your first million, and how much of it can you keep? So the listening audience, you all can do it on that, because I know a lot of people, we're doing a lot better than we were, better than our parents. Another one of my good friends and fraternity brothers, he posted something out on Facebook today, and it got a lot of attention. And, he had a comment, something to the effect of, if you're born poor, it's not your responsibility. But if you die poor, then it is your responsibility. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. But he got a lot of comments because people were, bringing in different variables, which is good. You're like, hey, it depends on, your situation and the environment and these different things. And that's true. All of those variables are true. But if you sit down and think about the type of money that we make as a people right now and what we've leveraged into with our education, I know for me, when I look at my mom, you know, the type of money that she made when I was a shorty and growing up, she didn't make the kind of money I make now. And that's just because it was the times. They was in a position where they were just trying to like make sure that we could get educated. But now that we're starting to get educated and moving into these higher different positions and directors and CFOs, CIOs, and all these other, you know, different positions, in order for us to benefit financially, we got to be fiscally fit. And we got to pay attention to our money. We got to make our money work harder than we work, because it's going to come a time when we're not going to be able to work as hard, and we're going to need to make sure that we played that game pretty good, so that way we can, you know, have something, and people are living longer. So it's not like being an old person with no money, because you all us got these grandparents and uncles on, and you, boy, a broke old person, boy. Them jokers there is like, they got an attitude that won't stop, boy. Cause I ain't know what it was when I was starting, but you know, as I grew older and got a little bit more mature, I figured it out, man. It's just unfortunate that sometimes people have made some decisions that impact them later on in life. So, you know, we want to be just fiscally fit. You know, we want to be thinking about wills, estate planning. You know, what we're gonna leave for our children, how they need to manage, how we want to set it up. Because again, that's being responsible. That comes with, you know, accountability and being responsible. So, and you want to be a good steward, and all of that's, I mean, that's biblical. You know, a man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. That's in the Bible. So I didn't say it. That's something that God is saying, and I think that's something that we need to take heed to, because we're some of the brightest and smartest people on the planet. Mike Mitchell is saying, I wish there was someone like you advising me before I went to college. Thank you for being, hey man, I appreciate it. Because what I'm trying to do is use my voice, use my light, and I'm getting out to colleges this year. I'm getting out to high schools, and we putting some programs in place. And one of the things that I'm working on now also is I'm working on a program where I can help some of those people that are caught in that middle piece, those people that have dropped out and can't get back into college. I'm working with, through a nonprofit organization, a partnership, a nonprofit that I have in partnership with another nonprofit. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create some funding so that way we can go out and vet some students out. And we're not just going to be giving money out to just, hey, on a hardship case, because, you know, I feel like I would do that, but I don't have an infinite amount of resources. So, but what I do want to do is I will be raising some money and working with some groups where we can go and do something as dynamic as reaching back to some of these people. Because, you know, if it's over 108,000 people in the state of Georgia that are in this predicament where they've dropped out of college, some of them are ready to go back, but they got these small loans. It might be 8,000. I want to work with them, work through our nonprofit organization, work with them to settle that debt, pay that debt off, and get them re-enrolled. It might only be one. I'm just looking for one. It's going to be one. And we're going to do it. I've already met with a couple people and told them what my plans were. They thought it made a lot of sense. So now I'm going to put that pressure on these different administrators at these schools and hold them accountable, because, you know, they got that tuition and the funding and the loans and all of that. They got that money up front before these students dropped out. So they have a vested interest too. So just think about if we had 100,000 more people in the workforce that were educated in the state of Georgia, it would help the economy. And I'm sure of that 100,000, a vast majority look like me. So I'm definitely going to be doing some work in that space to try to help some people out. And because nobody's doing that, nobody's even thinking about it. They pretty much discarded that group, but that's a lot of people, and we can impact a lot of lives. So, you know, thank you for that feedback, Mike. Thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. We 1 minute over the hour. I want to thank everybody that called in. Kevin, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to my producer, Raheem, over at the studio out in Snellville. I appreciate all of your help and support. Thank you for getting everything hooked up technically for us to continue the show. We're not going to miss any Thursdays if possible. I don't care if I'm in, you know, Bora Bora, China, or Hawaii. I don't care where I'm at. on a cruise. I'm going on a cruise later on, so hopefully I can. If they got Wi-Fi on that cruise ship, I'm gonna be doing the Daily Bread on that cruise ship because I'm committed to taking no days off. So I appreciate y'all. I love you. If you want to get, in touch with me, definitely you can send me an email, Daily Bread Radio Show at yahoo.com, Daily Bread Radio Show at yahoo.com. You can still hit me on Twitter. I'm at Joaquin Thompson Sr. at Daily Bread Radio. That's my Twitter contact information. And pretty soon, working on the website. I know my web developer is on me. I owe him some content, but everything is due. Will be done in due time. So I've got a new website coming. That's going to be real hot as well. So I appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate you all tuning in every week on Thursday nights because it is very, very, very humbling to have people tune in every week to see you chase your dream. So I appreciate you all. If there's anything I can do to help you chase your dream, support something that you're doing, by all means, reach out to me. Let me know what I can do, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Y'all have a beautiful evening. I'll see you all next week, 8 to 9 p.m. Spread the word. Let people know what we're doing over. We're doing some good stuff, and we'll do it again next week on the Daily Bread Radio Show. You all have a good evening.